Hello, hi, it's me here Bashir, Assistant Professor Economics, Calcutta Government College. Today in this video, I am here with you another topic from International Economics, the Leontief Paradox. This topic may be find useful for anyone who are doing Masters in Economics and also the one who prepare for various competitive exams related to economics. Welcome to the video. While coming to the topic, perhaps the most interesting empirical test of the Hector-Oylin theorem that has been made so far is a study undertaken by W. Leontief in the early 1950s. This was the first major test of HO theorem made by Leontief in his work on domestic production and foreign trade, the American capital position re-examined, which was published in 1953. So the result of this study has cast a doubt upon the Hector-Oylin explanation on the pattern of trade and specialization, and this has later came to be known as the famous Leontief paradox. We have seen a very intensive debate followed the publication of Leontief's somewhat paradoxical finding, and ever since this comprehensive test has influenced the empirical research in this area also. So the objective of this video is to discuss briefly Leontief findings and also some of the more important aspects of the discussion related to the Leontief paradox. So before going into the detail of the main contribution to the heated controversy to which Leontief finding has led to, we will first see what is this Leontief paradox and how he has conducted this test and what are his main findings. Now, you know what is HO theory. This theory says that a country which is rich in labor will export the labor-intensive commodities, and those which are rich in capital will export the capital-intensive commodities. In other words, Leontief argued that HO theorem predicts that a country will tend to export those commodities which use its abundant factors of production intensively and import those which use its scarce factors of production intensively. So by common consent, the United States was the country most abundantly endowed with the capital at that time. Therefore, one would have expected the United States to export capital-intensive goods and import labor-intensive one. So to test the Hector-Oylin prediction for the United States for the year 1947, Leontief has made use of his own inventions, that is an input-output table. He assumed that United States decreases its production of its export and its import by equal amount, say $1 million. This can be achieved, for instance, by an increase in tariffs, making the relative price of imports go up. That will stimulate the production of import competing goods and making the relative price of export falls, thereby curtailing the production of exports. So the Leontief then goes on to see what effect this change in the production pattern will have on the use of the factors of production. He has only taken into account two factors explicitly into account, that is labor and capital. When exports are decreased, both labor and capital are released. When production of import competing goods is increased, both more labor and capital are needed. So according to Leontief hypothesis, we would expect relatively more capital to be released from the export industries and relatively more labor to be needed by the import competing industries. Now, Leontief's main empirical result that can be summarized in this table, it shows the domestic capital and labor requirements per $1 million of US exports and of competitive import replacement in 1947. In this table, we can show that import replacement industries in the United States had been employing 30% more of capital than the export industries. That is, as we can see, his finding was the reverse of what we would expect, or it is the other way around. Export industries use relatively more labor than do import competing industries. So the ratio of capital to labor was higher in the import substitution industries than in the export industries. More specifically, he found that the capital labor ratio, that is dollar per man year, was only 13.99 in export industries as against 18.18 in import replacement industries. Hence, the US export labor-intensive goods and import capital-intensive goods. Therefore, it suggests that the export of United States, generally recognized as a capital-abundant country, were labor-intensive. Therefore, Leontief concluded in his own word as American participation in the International Division of Labor is based on its specialization in labor-intensive rather than capital-intensive lines of production. In other words, this country resorts to foreign trade in order to economize its capital and dispose of its surplus labor rather than vice versa. In brief, the capital-abundant countries export labor-intensive goods and labor-abundant countries export capital-intensive goods. So this reflects what is called as Leontief paradox, as this calculation and conclusion goes against the HO theory. Although the United States is the capital-abundant country, yet its specialization is found in the labor-intensive commodities. So how are we to explain Leontief's paradoxical result? That the most capital-rich of all countries, the United States, was exporting labor-intensive goods in 1947. Like all empirical findings, Leontief's paradox can be explained in a number of ways. The conclusion derived by Leontief not only surprised himself, but startled the academicians throughout the world. And also, the economists have undertaken lot of research for re-examining both the HO theory and Leontief paradox. Like, the attempt were also made on empirical grounds to reconcile the Leontief analysis with HO theory. So several economists have investigated the cause of bias in Leontief's work and shows the methodological and statistical weakness and also the inaccuracies in his analysis. Now we will analyze the heated controversy contributed by the Leontief's somewhat paradoxical findings and also the reconciliation debate between Hector-Oylin trade theory and Leontief paradox. This analysis can be summarized under following main points. The first one is criticism of the data and methodology, then the unbalanced trade problem. Like that, we have total 10 points. So these are the main points under which we will discuss the controversies and reconciliation between Hector-Oylin trade theory and Leontief paradox. So here is the first reason for the bias in Leontief's result, that is criticism on data and methodology. Immediately after the publication of Leontief's finding, several writers have questioned the accuracy and appropriateness of the data and the nature of the test. Like economist Buchanan has criticized the Leontief's measurement of capital. He argued that Leontief's capital coefficient were investment requirement coefficient and which did not take into account the durability of capital. Another economist like Leob, who criticized that differences in the capital intensity between export sector and import competing sector were not statistically significant. And we have other economists like Sverling. He did not consider the 1947 was not a typical year for testing the HO model. He argued that the post-war disorganization of production was not corrected in the world by that year. Not only that, US was only industrial country in the world was not much affected by war devastation. So, Leontief's study thus was basically a description of the US trade in 1947. Later, Leontief refined his measurements and tried to answer this and some other criticisms in a paper published in 1956. However, this paper hardly settled all the points about measurements and other inaccuracies. The other kind of explanation related to the Leontief bias is with reference to the unbalanced trade problem. Leimer in 1980, in one of his work, argued that the Leontief paradox is the consequences of an incorrect interpretation of the HO model when trade is not balanced. That is, when a capital-rich country is experiencing unbalanced trade, then we cannot conclude from the HO model that its export will be relatively capital intensive. Leimer demonstrated that when a country has trade surplus, as was the case for the US in 1947, the appropriate tests are to compare the capital labor ratio in either the country's net exports or its production with the capital labor ratio in the country's consumption. So when he examined US data of trade in 1947, he found that using his test, there was no evidence of the Leontief paradox. The other point by which the controversies and reconciliation between Leontief paradox and HO theory was about the labor productivity. Leontief himself tried to bring about reconciliation between his paradox and HO theory through the argument that the United States, though a labor scarce country in conventional terms, is actually a labor abundant country. Because he says that the productivity of labor in the US is about 3 times that of labor in the foreign countries. It is because by him to be better organization and entrepreneurship in the US than in any other countries. So in view of this, it is not surprising that labor abundant US exports those products which have relatively greater labor intensity. But the issue is here that there are no doubt that the productivity of labor is higher in the United States than in any other country, but the multiple by 3 as assumed by Leontief was clearly arbitrary. Because in a study by Krenin in 1965, it was revealed that productivity of American labor was more than that of foreign labor by only 20 to 25% and not by 300%. So given such a situation, the US cannot be regarded as a labor abundant country. We can also see that the higher labor productivity in the United States than in other countries implies a higher productivity of capital also in that country relative to the other countries. So, both US labor and capital should be multiplied by the same multiple 3. But that will leave the relative capital abundance of the United States as unchanged. That is why Leontief himself later on withdraw this explanation. Now coming to the other point by which there was a reconciliation and controversies between HO theory and Leontief paradox revolves around human capital. Leontief had found greater capital intensity in the US import substitution industries than in export industries is because he did not include the investment in human capital. He had emphasized only upon the physical capital such as machinery, equipment, building, etc. The investment in human capital means spending on education, skill creation and health, etc. Such an investment brings about substantial increase in the productivity of labor. So there is little doubt that the US is most well endowed with human capital. But if the human capital component is added to the physical capital, the US exports become far more capital intensive related to her import substitutes. It is also confirmed by empirical studies conducted by Kravis in 1956, Kennan in 1965, and Keesing in 1966. Now, the other point by which we can find the Leontief bias is associated with the role of natural resources. This explanation also revolves around the notion that a two-factor test, that is, a test based on labor and capital only, is very restrictive for proper assessment of the empirical validity of the Hexer-Oylin theorem. So, in this case, the additional factor is natural resources. So, in the context of Leontief paradox, many of the import competing goods labeled as capital intensive were really natural resource intensive. Actually, Leontief was assessing the factor requirements for producing import at home and found that this production required the use of capital intensive production process. But in industries such as petroleum product, coal product and iron and steel, domestic production of such goods involved a greater deal of natural resources as well as capital. For Leontief, production of these import competing goods involved capital intensive production because his was a two-factor test. However, the true intensity of the good produced might not be capital but in natural resources. So, if we were able to identify the true factor intensity, we might conclude that the US was importing natural resource intensive products. If the United States is relatively scarce in its endowment of natural resources, then there is no paradox with Hexer-Oylin. Now coming to the other point by which we can found the existence of Leontief paradox is about the factor intensity reversal. The HO theorem does not recognize the existence of factor intensity reversal. The concept of factor intensity we will be explaining much detail in later video. As of now, if such situation exists, HO theory cannot be sustained and Leontief paradox may become applicable in one of the two countries. However, the phenomena of factor intensity reversal, if it must be widespread or substantial, then it will rule out the HO theory. We can see a widely discussed study by Minhas about the factor intensity reversal. It recognized that the validity of factor intensity reversal. But the study made by Leontief himself in 1964 and others found it to be quantitatively insignificant. These studies found insufficient to reject the strong factor intensity hypothesis of the HO theory or to justify Leontief's paradox. Again, coming to the other point by which we can rule out the HO theory is based on the point of demand reversal or consumption pattern. Here, another explanation to reconcile the HO theory and Leontief paradox is in terms of consumption pattern in the US economy. It is sometimes argued that American consumption pattern was so strongly biased in favor of capital intensive goods that the price of such commodities were relatively higher in the US and therefore US should export relatively labor intensive goods. So if there is a demand reversal, then this argument tends to support Leontief paradox. However, a study by Hotaker in 1957 concluded that consumption pattern in many countries showed the income elasticity of demand for food, clothing, housing and several other goods was strikingly similar across countries. Hence, the explanation of Leontief paradox in terms of taste differences or in terms of demand reversal cannot be accepted. Now coming to the other point by which we can found support on the Leontief paradox is with the point of the international demand pressures. Here, the higher labor intensity in the US exports and capital intensity in the case of import replacement products can be due to the demand pressures in the US and her trading partners. Romney explained the Leontief paradox without ruling out HO theory on the basis of relative pattern of demand existing in the US and other countries. According to him, the pattern of demand in United States is such that it is compelled to import all such commodities that have relatively higher capital intensity. Similarly, the pressure of demand in foreign countries is such that the US is required to export the labor intensive commodities. Now coming to the last point by which we can found the reconciliation between Leontief paradox and HO theories based on tariff structure. Here, Leontief paradox can be reconciled with HO theory if it is recognized that tariff structure existing between the trading countries can influence the pattern of trade. A tariff is a tax on imports and it tends to restrict the imports. A 1954 study made by Kravis showed that the labor-intensive industries were most heavily protected in the US. That perhaps reduced the labor intensity of US import substitutes. Similarly, the LDCs, less developed countries, may be compelled to permit duty-free import of agricultural products or other labor-intensive products from the US in order to tide over the domestic shortage. Now let us sum up the entire discussion. What we have done here is that we have evaluated the empirical study with reference to HO theory by Leontief. In fact, it is one of the most important empirical study with reference to inter-industry trade also. We have been discussed here the major findings of the Leontief empirical study and major controversies and reconciliation debate between HO theory and Leontief paradox. So I hope that you have understood the discussion followed under Leontief paradox. Okay, thank you for watching.